Hello friend. So today video we are discuss about the our previous project student management. In our previous video only we are discuss about how can we are registered our student, and now in this video we are covered how to find the user detail and how to update and how to detail the student. Basically performing a all CRUD operation on the API in Spring Boot. So first we covered the create operation in our previous video. If you are not seeing that video, please check out that video. After that, see this video. After that, we into the video we implemented the in reading a student detail by its ID, and after that we are covered to how to update our user detail, and after that delete by the ID. So first cover how to read user detail by the ID. So going to our implementation, so interface, and here we so listen first user can enter only ID, and that ID must be the long type. Okay, user enter ID and we response user details. So user details must be the user response detail, because of user response detail is must have the user ID, name, roll number, email. So that is all the credential we show the user after whenever user basically want to see that particular its ID. Okay, it's a detail, sorry, it's a detail. So service in our service interface, first we make a method that is basically return the user response video. User means student response video, so student response video. Okay, and this is the get details. Okay, so get a little much, get a little. Okay, and that method is basically user give the long type value. So here we take a long ID. Okay, and this is the implemented by in service IMPL. So here override our method. So okay, and okay, so now we okay, so now first our responsibility to get the user detail by this particular ID. So user detail must be the student type. So make a student, first make a student is equal to, and that student detail must be stored into the map. So we first access the map. So map is basically inside the student repository. So first call the student repository object. So is student repository dot, sorry, student repository dot map, map dot get ID, get get by the ID. Now the particular detail, now the all the detail of a student by the particular ID is stored inside the student object. Okay, and that detail is basically set to the response DTO type. So here make a response DTO type object is student response DTO is equal to student response DTO is equal to new student response DTO. Okay, and now we set the all student inside the student response DTO. So student response DTO dot set first ID, and extract the ID inside the student. So uh, student dot get ID. Okay, and student response DTO dot set name, and after that a student extract student dot get name. Okay, and a student sorry student response radio dot set name, after that roll number, and extract student response student dot get roll number. Okay, the student response radio dot set 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 emails, and student responsibility dot get email. Okay, so now all the student information set inside the student responsibility. So we return the student responsibility in that particular method. So return student response video. Okay, now our service implementation is completed. So coming to the controller, and here we take input from the user in long format, and return to the student response detail. So make a method that is a student response detail, And this is the I think we make a method that name is get details. I think yeah, get details. So here make get details. Okay. So inside this, we have a we all are familiar with the uh, client input. So here we are take input from the user in form of at the rate request para. Okay, and this is basically at the rate get mapping. If you are not familiar with the get mapping, I made the video, so you can prefer that video. After that, see this video. So request param, we take a long type, long ID, and that is return to return service dot get ID. Inside the ID pass ID. So that is basically service called the get detail method, and detail is inside the detail we pass the ID that is given by the user. Okay, so our implementation of the finding user details is completed. Okay, now the how can user update his profile detail. Okay, so first we discuss how can user update its profile. So user must enter first its ID, okay, and after that its credential that user want to update. Okay, so we take a user ID and with the user ID and also take all the credential that user want to update. Okay, so inside the service method we make a response. We also generate our own response, but after updating the details of the user, we want to display the user updated value. Okay, so that's reason behind it. I make a student response DTO type. So student response DTO and update profile. Okay, and inside the update profile we take two parameter. First is the user ID, that is basically used to access the user detail, so long ID. And the second is the user detail, that is taken in form of the user request detail. So sorry, student request detail. So student request detail, that the student request details. Yeah, and this is implemented in the service IMPL. Implement that method. Okay, implement. Yeah, so first we extract the user details that is stored in map method. So we are use this for extracting the user details in the map method from the map method. So that this, yeah, so now student ID is basically given by the user, and user all the details, all details is stored in the student object. Okay, and now we set student request DTO, all the informations that is student request DTO inside the student, and after that is saved the all information in the map. Okay, so now we set all student request DTO, that is the sent by the our client, and set to the student. Okay, so that's why we set all student set sorry student dot set ID, and that particular ID is basically ID is not necessary, but we can also do that. Student dot set name, and that particular name extract inside the student request DTO. Okay, and student dot set name, roll number, student dot student request DTO dot get roll number. Okay, student dot set roll number name, and a student dot get role email ID. Yeah, email ID. Okay, so now we set all the detail that is sent by the user request detail into the student. So now update our map. So that why we are using student repository dot map dot uh, put it take two value. First is ID that is provided by the user, and second is student. Okay, so these all the data that is sent by the our user is saved inside the map. Now we return to the student response details. So that's we first convert all the detail into the student response detail. That's why we are taking a making a method that is student then response DTO. Student response DTO is equal to new student response DTO. Okay, and now set all the student value. I think first we extract student inside this. Student is equal to uh, mm, student student repository dot uh, mm, get by the particular ID. Now, after updated, we extract all the updated value from the map and store inside the student. And now this student value set to the student response detail that is sending to the user. So first we set a student response DTO dot set ID. So ID student response student get ID student, yeah, and student response DTO dot set name, and inside this name we extract student dot get name, and student response DTO dot set mm, emails student dot get emails, and a student response radio dot set roll number, and a student response radio dot get roll number, and return to the student response radio, that is the student response radio, right? Okay, so I think our update updation is completed. Now coming to the controller layer, now we make a method that is update the user profile, user details. It's a take ID, that is the long type, and it's also take the second parameter is basically user student request DTO. So for updating the value, we take a notation that is put type at the rate put mapping, and we send a response student response DTO, student response DTO, and that is basically update update profile. Okay, and take ID as a request param. So use request param. ID must be the long type, long ID, and the second parameter is basically the uh, taken as the request body. So at the rate request body, that is basically student request DDO. A student that have the type request student request DDO. Okay, and return service dot update profile. Inside the update profile, we have need to parameter. First is ID, and the second is student uh, student. Sorry, here we are not giving the reference student request DDO, and the path here reference is student request DDO. Okay, so we make first read by the ID and update by the ID, and now finally delete by the ID. Okay, so in delete by the ID, we take ID from the user and delete the particular map ID. Okay, so in service, we send some details like a student ID has been removed from the map method. So we take a string type, response basically is string type. So that's why make a method here string mm, delete delete sorry delete user. Okay, and take ID that is long time ID. Okay, and implement method inside the implementation. Okay, now implemented, and now we first take all the information regarding this input, because of we want to extract the username. So that's why we first extract user username. So student is equal to uh, okay, so now we get a student detail by the particular ID that is provided by the user. So why we are using this ID to get user detail? So when we delete the user, we want to show the username. So that's why we get a user detail by the id. So here is string name is equal to student dot get name. Okay, so name is stored inside the name. So return, sorry, first remove that student. What is the method we are using to remove a particular ID details in map? So map basically, I think what is the student repository? Student repository, student repository dot in map dot remove remove and pass the id particular id. So map when we are want to remove a particular id, we use remove method. Okay, so map dot remove is remove the detail to the particular id. Okay, uh, first, okay, recap first. So first we user provided the id, and we extract a username. Okay, and print the username in form of a string. So because of our method is a string, so here we return user username is basically name has been removed. Okay, now our service method is completed. Coming to the control, copy first name because of make their name method name. So inside this we make a method. So deleting, for deleting, we used delete mapping, and that is a string type because of we printed name. Okay, and user delete user, and take long id. Okay, and return service dot and delete user and provide the id. Okay, now the all details is completed, means our project is completed. So let's try to try to run. Okay, so our project is completely run. So what is the endpoint of our API? I think API slash student. So coming to our uh, Postman. So first we want to user detail, fetch the user detail. Okay, so first we enter some detail because of for fetching the user. First user is must inside the map. So here sound dot is added. So it is the first detail. Okay, now second. Okay, and update some. So some. Okay, now the second student is there. Okay, third, sorry, and like Ravi is four user. Fourth user is basically Ravi, and we want to fetch the user detail by the id. Okay, so going to the get mapping, and I think we take a param. So coming to our project for this type of get mapping, request param. Okay, so request param id id, and I want to fourth id, basically Ravi. So here enter 4. Okay, here the API. Okay, so we can see there is Ravi's fetched inside the map. Okay, and if I want to fetch the fourth API, no, first, sorry, first. So first it must be the soup. So I think, yeah, here we can see that fetching the API is working. Okay, now I want to update the user detail. So when we are want to update user detail, we must give the two parameter. First is ID, and second is the student request TTU type. So ID is in form of param. So ID, and we want to update the first ID. So here ID, and second parameter is basically student request attitude. That is the request body. So inside the body, inside the raw format, inside the JSON, you must select the JSON. Okay, and I want to remove the name soup into the soup into the Ravi, not Ravi, Mahesh. So here we enter Mahesh. Okay, and here must be the Mahesh. Okay, and if we hit the API, it should change the first name and also the username. Okay, also the email. Okay, so hit API, and I think we here select must select the put mapping because of we want to update. Okay, enter. Yeah, so first is basically our past data is basically Mahesh, name is Mahesh, and email sorry, name is Sub, and email is basically sub at the rate 123. But after the updated, we update the name as Mahesh, and email ID also the Mahesh at the rate 123. Okay, so this is the updation of our API. Okay, now we want to delete the data. If you can no, if you want to update other data like second id, and the second id is also subsum because first and second is overridden, so you can check here. Basically second is basically sub and sub at the rate. If you want to remove the sub as a Tom, so here we enter Tom, and email id is also update Tom, and yeah, so mapping is basically put mapping. Okay, and send the request. So control enter, send the request, and now it's updated. Okay, if you want to check, so get and send the request. Yeah, so you can see here it is updated. And one more last is basically delete mapping. So coming to the delete mapping only take one parameter, that is ID. So I want to remove fifth ID, that is basically Mahesh. Okay, if you want to see, so you can see here Mahesh. Okay, so you can see in our code we when we write delete method implementation, so first we extract username, after that remove the particular user inside the map. Okay, so our response must be the user, and after that deleted value then has been removed. So we want to remove the Mahesh, so user Mahesh has been removed is basically our response type that is printed inside the JSON format. Okay, so I want to remove the fifth value. So user Mahesh has been removed. That is the printed here. So you can see here. Sorry, you must select the delete mapping. Okay, so enter. Yeah, so user Mahesh has been removed. And if you want to check our Mahesh is existing or not, so get Mahesh, and that has the 5 ID and hit enter. So you can see here internal error because of Mahesh is not existing in your map. Okay, and if you want to delete fourth data, what is the fourth name? Fourth is basically Ravi. If you want to remove the Ravi, so you can do that, uh, delete, and now the response is basically user Ravi has been removed. Okay, so user Ravi has been removed. So that all about the CRUD operation in our API section. In our future video, we handle the request like if user is not present, then what will be show by the in front of the user. Like we removed fourth user, and if any user by the mistake want to access fourth user, then you can see here internal server error. That is the not based response generated. It's basically server error, not generated the user response. So we we generate our own response if user is basically not in our map section. So till then, keep learning and keep exploring. Thank you and have a good day. If you have any doubt, so you can also DM me. WhatsApp number is pinned in our description box. Thank you.